My brother, 32, has been impregnating his wife, 32, since they were in high school. Their oldest is now a young teen, but they have 3 more. She's a stay-at-home mom and he works as a cleaning staff member at a FIFO, first in, first out camp. It's good money, but they waste a lot of it. They have multiple gaming systems, and the 2 oldest kids have very new iPhones. I, 28 female, live in the loft above my parents' garage. I don't pay rent because my folks want me to save for my future. I help out around the house and buy groceries for my parents and myself. My brother and his family live in the in-law suite in my parents' basement. It was supposed to be a rental to get them some extra money for when they retired, but after my brother lost his job because he wouldn't get vaccinated, our folks let them move in. I also love to buy my parents gifts, but my brother and his family always needed exactly what I happened to give them. For example, I brought my mom a very colorful bag from Colombia called a mochila. It's just a woven cotton shoulder bag made with very vibrantly colored yarn. My niece, 9, saw it and wanted to use it for a project at school, where she promptly lost it. I got my father a bottle of Van Winkler bourbon since he loves to have a drink after a long day. My brother and his wife found it and drank it, mixed with orange juice, because it was so strong tasting. So now I do other stuff. I took my mom to go see Anastasia, and I got us excellent seats. No one else was invited. I took my dad out for a steak dinner and then to a speakeasy in our city and treated him to a $160 cocktail. My parents love doing these things, but won't waste money on them. I keep the groceries I buy in my loft. I'll make meals for my parents and have them over, or I'll bring the ingredients and cook with my dad. My brother started asking why I don't leave the groceries in the freezer, fridge, or pantry that they have access to, and why I stopped buying my parents gifts. He says I live there for free and should give our parents more. I asked him how much he was paying them in rent, or how he was contributing to the household, and he said he was tired on the weeks he was home, and that his wife and kids were too busy to help. I work a full-time job, volunteer at a cat rescue, do theater sports as a hobby, and still manage to help with yard work, housework, errands, and helping with my grandmother, who's in a locked-in facility for dementia patients. I pointed this out, and he said I was being a little witch. I said I wasn't stupid enough to leave anything around that he and his family could steal. Now we're fighting, and my parents are upset. His wife called me an idiot for not sharing the treats I bought for my parents. I can afford to buy treats for my parents and me, but not for 5 more people who don't contribute. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This is actually clever. I keep that up. Sporting events, movies, more dinners, shows, and any kind of experience, rather than effects that can be stolen. As for your paying rent or not, that's between your parents and you. None of your mooching, stealing brother's business. You could always tell him a porky pie, and he wouldn't be any the wiser, whether you were paying $1 or $5,000. Of course, you shouldn't buy treats for your brother's family. That's his duty. In the long run, I don't think you'll be happy in that house, as long as your brother is there. You have to figure out which of you will move out. I find it ridiculous that a man who can father half a football team has had to move in with his parents. He should actually be made to keep it wrapped up. Right? The dude is hanging out unemployed in his parents' basement, stealing the food she buys for her parents versus just getting vaccinated and going back to work and providing for his family. If OP ever wants to give him the gift of an event, it should be a vasectomy appointment. OP, you're spending time with your parents. Making memories is more valuable than gifts anyway. OP is nailing the gift giving. The fact that bro and his family can't steal anything gifted is just a sweet bonus. Honey, be sure to always keep your loft locked and do not let anyone have a key. If you give your parents a key, your brother will weasel it out of them and then rob you blind. My 42 male, wife 39, is a high school dropout, but obviously she's so much more than that, and never once did I ever give the fact that she had fewer hours in a classroom than some other woman a second thought. This is a sore subject for me because peers would judge us about her getting a GED. My wife was already a busy stay-at-home mom, and my family business made enough for the both of us. My wife didn't need a GED to be what she already was, funny and engaging. Despite her struggles with classroom learning, she was always open to listening and absorbing information that I was excited about. In the end, I concluded that they just used it as something to feel superior to my wife. My son, Ben, teen, has unfortunately sunk neck deep into the concept of influencing. He's obsessed to the point where he's blown his allowance money on courses and influencer events that advertise lessons on how to build a following. It's gotten bad enough that I've considered changing the rules of his allowance to impose restrictions because these courses offer nothing of value except false hope with all the buzzwords desired by their teen target audience. My daughter, teen, our oldest child, told us Ben had looked up laws about the age at which he could drop out. I asked Ben, and he replied that he knew enough about the 10th grade classes to be showing his mom how he was doing his homework and writing his essays and explaining concepts to her, and that if mom dropped out and I accepted her dropping out, plus bounced ideas off her, then I would be a hypocrite if I refused to let him drop out. This made everything very frustrating because I didn't want my wife and I to deal with a son who was being pig-headed with unrealistic dreams. But I wouldn't have Ben's situation be one where swipes are taken at my capable wife. That all exploded when my daughter decided to interject when I was trying to get through to Ben. Ben said, "Mom dropped out and did just fine." And my daughter said, her mom is not a dropout success story because dropout successes gain the skills to create good situations for themselves without school. But her mom's situation is determined mostly by other people's decisions and emotions. That was so out of line that I had to send her to her room and ask that she give her iPad and phone to me. She could use a computer in my office to do assignments because she was clearly hearing this argument from somewhere. My wife, luckily, hasn't been involved in these conversations, so she didn't hear this and hopefully never will. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Your daughter wasn't lying and wasn't trying to be rude or disrespectful. She's correct. Your wife's comfortable position in life is due to your love for her and your strong partnership. If you die or lose interest in her, her circumstances could rapidly deteriorate. Your daughter knows this and was giving an accurate assessment and was trying to support you in talking to your son. You should apologize to your daughter. If you think your wife is not at a disadvantage, you're more delusional than your son. His wife could be brilliant, but I hope he has a large life insurance policy. She won't have good job opportunities if she tries to enter the workforce. Dude, your wife is doing okay because she doesn't need an education to be a stay-at-home mom. That's what your son needs to know. Mom is doing great, but she has no salary. If his goal is $0, he's on track. I hope you apologize to your daughter. Also, make sure your dummy of a son stays in school and doesn't drop out to be an influencer. There are also not a lot of women lining up to be sugar mamas for useless boys who want to make it big on social media. Stay-at-home dads are a thing, but usually, successful women marry men with a similar educational background, and the decision is made because her career out-earns his. Women aren't generally content with baristas and waiters with ambitions to be stay-at-home parents. Does your son think he'll land a sugar mama, being one of a million influencers? LMFAO. His plan to get a following is not a business plan. That's a pipe dream. For every big influencer, there are tens of thousands of failures. My 32 female brother Nate, 49, married his first wife and had my oldest niece, Zoe, 24. Nate cheated on Zoe's mom when Zoe was 6, and they divorced. Zoe's mom took her to another city, and Zoe would come to us for summer vacation. Nate moved his girlfriend in after the divorce and had Kim, nearly adult female. I've always sent Zoe Christmas and birthday cards. She would send me a message a few times a year for updates. We're friends on a few social media platforms, but neither's very active online. Last year, Zoe said that she was getting married. Our family was happy for her, and Nate said he would help pay for the wedding, since Zoe and her fiancé are only 24. Zoe thanked him and went about planning her wedding. Recently, Nate learned that Kim is just a guest at Zoe's wedding. He told her she should make her only sister the maid of honor. Zoe said that position was for her best friend, who's been in her life since she was 10. Nate was not happy, but then suggested that Kim could be a bridesmaid. Zoe said no, that although she feels bad for feeling this way, Kim is proof of him cheating on her mom. She's uncomfortable having Kim as anything other than a guest at her wedding. Nate says Zoe needs to make Kim a bridesmaid or he will pull all the funds from her wedding. When I learned of this, I lost it on my family, especially my parents, asking why they could back Nate up on such a thing. They said they agreed it's a little mean, but this needs to be done to keep the family together. How can Zoe get married and not have her only sister involved? I'm doing rather well financially. I called Zoe to console her and asked her how she planned to proceed with the wedding. Zoe said that they would scale down the wedding. It would be a shame, but it was the only way her fiancé and she could pay on their own. I asked for the difference, and since it was only just over $10,000, I told Zoe she could consider it a wedding gift for me and she could have her dream wedding. Zoe was ecstatic. She said I gave her the ability to really have her wedding the way she wanted it. My family was mad at me when they learned what I did. Kim was crying and said she was looking forward to being a bridesmaid at the wedding, and I ruined everything. Nate said Zoe wouldn't even let him walk her down the aisle now, and my parents added that all their extended family and friends would talk about how dysfunctional our family is. My family gave me such grief that I wondered, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're a saint. Zoe isn't snubbing people or making it a big deal to exclude people. She's just not going out of her way to appease other people's unreasonable requests for her wedding. And the fact that Kim said she was looking forward to being a bridesmaid at the wedding and saying that you ruined that means that she was promised that her dad would be able to manipulate Zoe into giving her what she wanted. That doesn't sound like a loving father or half-sister who's bothered or hurt by the lacking relationship with Zoe. That's a couple of self-pitying idiots who are willing to use Zoe to get something they want and are upset that they've been denied the chance to take advantage of her. Also, being in a wedding party is a big responsibility. Being the maid of honor is even more so. Is this teen going to plan the bachelorette party, attend wedding dress shopping, coordinate the other bridesmaids, be someone the bride can lean on for emotional support, protect the bride from unnecessary stress? It's not a prize or a gift you just give to a child because they want it. If she wants to wear a pretty dress for a fancy party, she can save it for junior prom. Right? Why do I feel that if Kim ended up being maid of honor, it would be her mother planning everything as some sort of power trip? Dad was willing to ruin Zoe's wedding because his spoiled affair baby had her heart set on being a bridesmaid and is now mad he can't walk her down the aisle. He lost that privilege when he started playing games at his daughter's wedding. Good for you, OP. Finally, someone who can see what's right and wrong and is willing to step up and help. I, 28 female, and my husband, 28, have been together for 6 years and married for 4. We have 2 kids, a male preschooler and a female toddler. I want to say I have a good relationship with my in-laws, but I know that there's a big difference in how they and my parents raise their children. My parents never physically disciplined me or my siblings, but my husband has told me that his father used to whoop his and his siblings' butts a lot. He's jokingly told me stories about it, but I've asked him not to tell me because it does make me uncomfortable. His father has also told me stories of how much work it was to whoop my husband because he was more resilient than his siblings. I've asked him not to tell me anything about that because I don't like hearing stuff like that. He's also told me that if my husband ever misbehaves, to just hit him real hard with something. I've told him that I disagree and I wouldn't hit my husband or my kids if they misbehave. I'm very wary of his father, but keep a respectful relationship, even if I disagree or dislike what he says and has done. My mother-in-law doesn't say anything, but has apologized on behalf of my father-in-law. My husband and I have talked about parenting styles and made it clear I would not tolerate physical punishment or discipline. He's asked me why, stating that that's how kids grow strong and independent, and has made himself a prime example in trying to prove his point. It is a difference in how we grew up, so we usually get into a disagreement, but it usually ends with him yielding. Last week, my family and I went over to my in-laws for dinner, and it went well. There weren't any issues, and the food was good. My husband's siblings were also there, and we were catching up. His father was getting intoxicated, and two of my husband's younger siblings, a young teen male and a teen male, were running around making a racket and fighting. Their dad told them repeatedly to stop, but they didn't listen. My preschooler was also wandering around and eventually got trampled over by them. My father-in-law shot up from his seat and proceeded to beat both harshly. No one, not even my husband, batted an eye and continued eating like nothing was happening. I told him that it was just an accident and my son was fine and to please stop. My father-in-law apologized to me about his sons and sent them to their room crying. The night went on like nothing happened, but I was scared and nervous the rest of the night. When we got home, I told my husband how scared I was of his father and how brutal it was of him to hurt them for such a minor accident. He only shrugged and told me that they were told to stop but didn't, and they ended up trampling our son. That maybe if they had listened, it wouldn't have ended the way it did for them. I told him that I no longer felt comfortable being around his father, and I felt even more uncomfortable letting my kids be around him. I didn't want to be around him ever again because he scared me. He told me to relax and that it wasn't a big deal, that maybe I was just overreacting. I stand firm in my decision because I fear that one day my kids will misbehave around them and they'll meet the same fate. I asked my husband to cut out his father, but he told me he would not do that. What I was asking was crazy. He couldn't just do that because of this little thing. He apologized and told me that he would speak to his father, but that he would not be cutting out his own family for no reason. I have told my mother-in-law about how I felt and about my decision, and she said to me that I was overreacting and that it was unfair of me to take away their grandchildren for such a stupid reason. I've been receiving texts from his siblings apologizing and asking if I'm okay, but I've ignored them. My father-in-law has also called me, but I've just let it go to voicemail. My husband has called me an idiot for how I'm handling the whole situation and has asked me to talk to his father about it, since I'm always preaching about other, more humane ways of handling things. I feel like everyone is against me and is completely disregarding how I feel. Am I the idiot? Edit. My husband has 5 siblings, 27 males, 26 females, 24 females, a teen male, and a young teen male. He's the oldest. He's also told me that his father would never lay hands on our children because they're not his kids, nor is he responsible for disciplining them if they act up. Not the idiot. That wasn't discipline. That was toxic parenting. A report should be made to Child Protective Services. Study after study has shown that physical punishment like that is not an effective punishment and is harmful to children, leaving emotional scars. Our parents may not have known better when they were young, but we have the science now, and everyone, including your father-in-law, should know better. Wow, the man is a monster. Do not back down on this and keep your children far away. Stick to "this is the safest for me and my child." Father-in-law is violent, and I'm not comfortable around him. It's the truth, and it's not on you to comfort or shield them from that or provide further explanation. If possible, tell your husband to seek some therapy. He's also this man's victim, so his dismissal of your feelings is potentially a thing that you can look past, depending on if and how quickly he sees the light that his father is a monster and not normal.